Greetings, District 148, Board of Education, Dr. Kevin J. Nolte, Superintendent of Schools, and Dr. Sonia Whitaker, Deputy Superintendent of Schools. It is with great pleasure that I present for you tonight an overview of our recommended ELA programming option, which is magnetic reading and Ready Classroom programs. My name is Ms. Dornetta Walker, and I am School District 148 Curriculum Coordinator. To begin this conversation, I would like to start by giving a quote from our CEO of Curriculum Associates, and it reads, "The truest measure of our success is not our bottom line, but our impact in classrooms. This higher purpose fuels our growth, informs product development, and defines our culture." Rob Waldron, CEO. I would like to enter into this conversation with you today by unpacking three questions: the what, the why, and the how. The what is just going to refer to the overview of our recommended ELA programming options. And the why is, why did our district literacy team choose this program over other programs which we have reviewed and evaluated? The how is just going to be, how does this program directly align to the district's proposed strategic plan? So tonight I'm going to present to you our magnetic reading, which we are proposing to support our students in grades K-5, and Ready Classroom, which we are proposing will support our students in grades 6 through 8. Both products are from Curriculum Associates. So what is magnetic reading and Ready Classroom? What we have discovered through our evaluation process and the review of the materials is that the magnetic reading program will begin to allow our students to discover the joy of reading in the primary grades and fully prepare our students for the standards in our intermediate and middle school grades. What we have identified as a committee is that these programming options are rich in text, they are culturally responsive in teaching, and they allow the teacher to scaffold to support all learners. What we highlighted most about this programming option is that it creates authentic connections for our students, allowing them to connect to the world around them and to each other. What is iReady? So aside from our textbook, our physical textbooks that our students will be receiving through these programming options, there is also a digital platform. This is our online component to our programming option. What our district literacy team likes most about this online digital programming option is that it allows for our teachers to be more data-driven. I would like to pause here to remind the board of the fact that we adopted our math series prior to the pandemic, which I think the Board of Education will mostly appreciate the fact that because we adopted that series that had the component, the digital component, the online component, it allowed us to move seamlessly into our remote learning programming option when we were remote. What it also allowed our students and our staff to do was to gain access to the entire programming option using the online platform. I want to pause here for a second just to unpack for you what our educators will see when they access their digital platform and their dashboards. Our educators will receive what we would consider to be timely and relevant reports for our scholars. So all of our students take at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of year, the benchmark assessment that is going to be aligned to what the students are learning. And so the actionable data that our teachers are going to use will allow for them to move forward in their lessons by adjusting their lessons to meet the needs of all of our learners. In the tab Teach and Access for our teachers, we will find resources for differentiated instructional practices. These resources allow our teachers to create those small group upfront and in your face type of instruction that we know all of our learners need at this time. For our scholars, the data that's received from these benchmark assessments allow for our scholars to then engage in a personalized learning path. This allows for the scholars to not only gain access to their grade level content, but also gain access to lessons that will meet the needs of the deficits that were discovered during the diagnostic assessments. These assessments, these online assessments also include lesson assessments and unit assessments, where students will also be assessed on standards mastery. So as the scholars are going through lessons, the teachers have the opportunity to then engage where the scholars are, providing them with the standards mastery assessment. What we also like about the program is that our scholars are held to not only typical growth goals, but also a stretch growth goal. And what this does for our district as a whole is it says that we are moving towards not only making sure that our scholars are growing, but we're making sure that they're on a track to meet grade level standards overall. And so this personalized instruction where our scholars will be receiving lessons to meet their deficits is also going to tackle attainment at the same time. What our educators find most beneficial about the online component is that it allows the teachers to also gain access to on-demand professional development. These professional development sessions include not only how to unpack and analyze the data, but how to then use the resources embedded within the program to move the lessons and to reach the scholars as a whole. So why did we choose this program? What makes this program stand out for our literacy committee? What we found as we went through the review process is that, first of all, this program allows for our teachers to gain actionable insight to what our scholars are needing, using the data from the assessment that is aligned to what students are actually going to be taught in the classrooms. The data also reveals for our educators, it reveals unfinished learning for our scholars. So educators are also able to attack and to support our scholars with unfinished learning during this process and using the products from the recommended ELA program. What really stood out for our district literacy team was the fact that this programming option is very culturally responsive in its teaching. Not only when we looked at the resources, not only did we find that it was culturally responsive, but in each of the learning passages and each of the texts and the stories that the students will gain access to and be exposed to, our scholars will find themselves in the reading. And that way, they're making sure that our scholars, our diverse population of students that we serve, feel most affirmed. They will be seen in the passages that they're reading, and they will be respected in those passages that they are reading. As we look at our different subgroups and making sure that the programming option that we chose best fits the needs of all of our learners, what we found with this particular programming option is that it allows for us to reach our Spanish speaking community. Embedded within all of the lessons, the student book is also in Spanish if we need it to be, and also the communication that goes home to our community members, our parents, we have both English and Spanish language content available for distribution. In order to make sure that we're not only going through this process and making sure that our students grow, we are holding our students accountable using the component within the curriculum option that allows for us to not only look at typical growth, but stretch growth goals for our students. How does this programming option align to the district's proposed strategic plan? When we look at Goal 1, it talks about creating an environment where our scholars and our teachers receive supports academically, and that those supports are integrated through the curriculum. When we look at this particular ELA adoption, we know that it provides our staff and our students with frameworks using this program that address the academic needs and the supports that's needed for our students. When we look at Goal 2, and according to in alignment with our board policy as it relates to being culturally responsive, we know that we're also moving in a strategic way when we're adopting this particular programming option, because it allows for that culturally responsive piece to come to life. Within this programming option, we know that we can look at those textbooks and see that it speaks to the lives and the spirits of the students that we're serving here in District 148. What we also like about the programming option is when we combine Goals 1 and Goal 2 with what we consider to be our recommendation to the board tonight, we know that we have reviewed, examined, and evaluated this programming option to make sure that not only the components within the teaching, but also the assessment is aligned to what our students need academically, socially, emotionally, and also this program is culturally responsive. Looking at Goal 4, as I spoke about earlier, this programming option allows us to continue to build our relationships with our community partners and our schools and our families by allowing us to provide our families with a Spanish version of the content that's being sent home for communications as we go through our different units and reading.
So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so very much for giving of your gift of time. As many of you are aware, we are positioned right now. You've done a lot of hard work as members of Dalton West School District 148's District Literacy Committee. And we are very excited about the fact that once again, one of the district level committees has delivered on our promise to be prepared to have a recommendation to the Board of Education be made relevant to the adoption of an English language arts curriculum and supporting materials. So I want to first of all start out by thanking you so very much for the work that you've done to make that happen. We're going to, during the March Board of Education meeting, we've been asked to provide for the Board of Education so that they can make an informed decision, a presentation about the programming option, again, that we want them to adopt, as well as supporting materials. However, I felt it, because you were so engaged in this process, I felt it was important for them also to see you, to know who you are, and to hear from you about what this experience has been like for you. And so I've prepared a few questions for you to respond to in your most authentic way possible. First question that I have that I'd like for you to respond to is relevant to, can you please share what you've appreciated most about your participation and involvement in this process?
My name is Miguel Gutierrez. I'm second grade at Lakewood School. Being able to see and have a voice in what we're going to be using with our students is immensely valuable. When I come in and we start, I'm going to be learning the new curriculum, period, but now I know that I had input and said, this is what my students need. And this is how we're going to get the best
Thank you.
My name is Darlene McMillan. I'm safety facilitator at Park School, and I just want to add the experience was a little bit different because in the past I looked at curriculum in different avenues, but this particular time we started from a foundation, which was the rubric. And the rubric really set the tone for me because so many times our students don't see people in reading books that look like them. And because the world is changing and the family dynamics are changing, I thought that it was really great that we had a rubric to start with so we could look in detail at the different types of books that were being thrown at us. Well, not thrown at us, but shared with us to consider. So I really enjoyed that process, starting with the foundation of the rubric.
And I really agree with Darlene McMillan. My name is Dornetta Walker. I'm the curriculum coordinator here at District 148. And what I want to add about the actual rubric is what I like best about it is that we created it. We built our rubric based on the needs of our students. And we went through a process where we put together what I would consider our non-negotiables. And we said within whatever curriculum we're going to purchase or ask for the adoption by way of our Board of Education, we wanted to make sure that it had that curriculum option or that programming option had everything in it that we considered to be of great need for our students. And so even building the rubric before we were able to get into the actual different curriculum options was very powerful for me, just to see how it empowered, as Mrs. Gutierrez and Mrs. McMillan has stated, it empowered us and it gave us we took ownership of this process from the very beginning.
My name is Deborah Moyenda. I am a second grade teacher here at Park School. One of the things I really appreciated was also learning more about literacy, especially the foundational skills and some of the very important components about it and how important the foundational skills, how important they were in the overall aspect of learning how to read. So for me, that was very empowering. And having Jamie come in and facilitate for us a little bit, that was really helpful too, because I had a lot of questions and I got those questions answered. And one more thing, it's just knowing the type of products that are out there. I think sometimes as teachers, when we encountered different curriculums, because we have not had an opportunity to see what was out there, we have a tendency to judge very harshly what has been chosen for us. But that was very enlightening for me also. Thank you.
My name is Sarah Costello. I'm a special education teacher at Franklin School, and I appreciated the fact that we could collaborate with our peers across the district. That was good to hear voices from different schools and different concerns. And I also like the fact that we had some time with the resources and then we could go back and actually ask the representatives, because some of our questions were clarified that way and we understood better. Because sometimes we were looking for something that we didn't see that was there, or we thought something was there and then it really wasn't. So it was really helpful to have that extra time to look through the resources and then be able to go back to the curriculum companies and ask our specific questions.
My name is Dr. Kim Braswell Carpenter, principal at Roosevelt. What was really significant about that rubric was the way we had a shared focus about what the points meant. We kept rethinking about what distinguished a 1 from a 2 from a 3. And I really like the fact that we actually were able to debate and have these rich conversations about what that meant. And then we all came together on a consensus about a shared understanding about what it would look like moving forward.
What would you say is the strongest component or components of the program being recommended?
The assessment piece.
Ooh, let's talk about that.
I would say the assessment piece because when we're using a program, students are learning what the program has to offer. They're being taught through the program. And so it's very important that we are assessing them based on what they've just learned. So I think that's a very important piece because we know how they're moving based on what we're presenting to them every day.
I second what Tiffany said as well. Having worked with the same program with the math, it's really good to see that you can track their progress, and it gives specific suggestions to remediate where they're struggling. But yes, the My Path product or part of the reading series is going to be really influential in helping the students.
This is Rebecca Jenko from Park School 5th grade. I see in the chat, which was also a thought in my head from Mr. Gilbert, who I believe is from Roosevelt, pointed out that because we were able to work together and we had this rubric, we were able to go with bandwidth, and we picked a curriculum that covers all the way K through 8, which is a pretty powerful curriculum, because sometimes we would find something that only catered to specific areas. So I am with you, Mr. Gilbert. I agree that we have a program now that every grade level was able to discuss and say, yep, this meets our needs.
Hello, I'm Sharon Patrick. I'm the MTSS facilitator at Riverdale. I also agree with what's been said. I love the assessment piece, the ability to quickly access data, and the learning paths. And I'd like to add that there's a lot of resources for teachers to pull from to support students based on the data, based on how they scored when they took the diagnostic.